Hey everybody, going live with Mr. Jesse Hayman from Jack.org today. We've got a new start to our shows each day, just because we're going to start off with some music, get a little groove on, to put people in a happy mood. We're 11 weeks into COVID-19 and looking forward to having some great conversations as we move forward through the summertime and making sure that people are staying happy and healthy by staying connected. Hello, Jenna Valera. Good to have you join us. There's Jesse Hayman. We'll bring Jesse on, my good friend, Org, who's going to put on a little groove as he gets started, as he's moving like Jagger or Jagger. Hello, Jesse Hayman. Can you hear me?
I can absolutely hear you. I was just bopping in the background.
There you go, brother. It's funny. Last week we interviewed Genevieve Fisher last Friday, who's a singer from London, Ontario. And as I started off the show with a little bit of her music, which was awesome, I thought to myself, that's what we need as we do the introductions here. We need a little background music to get things up and going.
Absolutely. We always used to have it at the Movember office most days.
Music was always a part of the Movember days.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing, buddy? It's happy Tuesday.
Thanks. It's been a week so far, so it feels like it's been a full week, but it's only been a couple days. I find that quite a bit with COVID right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a challenging few months for the world and for me personally, but there's lots of good to celebrate as well. But doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. Well, we'll get into all this stuff momentarily. What I want to do now, we do a little introduction, Jesse, to get this thing off the ground. And then I'm going to give you your proper formal introduction because you deserve it. And then we'll come back to the conversation of how the world is going and how we can support young people today and the work you're doing at Jack.org. So give me 2 minutes to do that stuff and I'll be right back to you, buddy.
You got it.
Hey, everybody. Pete from the GenWell Project, the Human Connection Movement. That's mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by reminding us all about the importance of face-to-face social connection and inspiring us to take action. Our goal was to get people connected before the next crisis, but obviously we're in that crisis now, and staying connected is more important than ever before, as it's one of the greatest things we can all do for both our mental and physical health, to stay strong, stay happy, and build the resilience that will get us through to the other side. Connected Conversations is a series of conversations that we launched at the start of COVID-19 because we thought these daily conversations would be helpful as we connected people to ideas, to tools, to people like Jesse Hayman, who can help us come up with some ideas, come up with some solutions, and help us all build the resilience that will get us to the other side. A huge thank you to all the volunteers who help make GenWell Project what it is. And everybody's a volunteer for GenWell Project because it is just about sharing the important message about human connection. So today we are lucky to have an old friend of mine, Jesse Hayman from Jack.org, who's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing, because they're doing great work at trying to help young people stay positive, stay happy, and maintain their mental health. But as a little background on Jesse, who's the vice president at Jack.org, Jesse ensures that Jack.org is positioned to propel their programs forward, that they always work towards being one of the top employers in Canada, and that we have the funds necessary to revolutionize youth mental health across Canada. Jesse came to Jack.org after 7 years at the Movember Foundation as part of Canada's original Movember team of 3. Jesse led the development team with a special focus on their voice and thought leadership surrounding men's mental health and suicide prevention. Recognizing the lack of resources available to help people learn how to be there for others throughout their mental health journey, Jesse's frustration has turned into action and a desire to make change across Canada. He's been involved in mental health prevention and promotion ever since. You might catch Jesse in his element on the rugby field, diving to the bottom of the ocean, hanging out in a canoe in Ontario's backcountry, walking his dogs Dexter and Rocco, or in the Jack.org office. Jesse, great to have you on Connected Conversations, my friend.
Thanks, Pete. It's awesome to be here and always awesome to chat with you. So no, I'm excited. I'm excited to chat, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you, and great to have you representing jack.org and all the work you guys are doing there. So as you probably saw, I know we sent over some stuff in advance, but one of the things we do in all of our conversations is we start out with the people we're talking to, because right now it's critical that we check in on each other, and not just in the superficial way that many of us used to check in on each other, but I think we have more of a reason to not only ask the questions, but even respond in a more authentic way. So my question to you, Jesse Lee Hayman, is how you doing in COVID-19? And you touched on it a little bit, but maybe you can tell us a little more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of new people have cycled in since. I'm doing okay. It's, I would say, am I thriving optimally? No. I'm not a person, and I think, like, to put it as clearly as possible, I'm not a person that usually struggles with their mental health. And for that, I feel extremely lucky and privileged that my day-to-day is relatively, is relatively easier than it is for some people that do struggle every day. That has not been the case recently. I think for the first time in my life, for whatever reason, not sure exactly what it is, I've been challenged with anxiety, with additional stresses, with you're not connecting with people every day. You know this about me, Pete, but I'm very much a people person, and sit down and make interpersonal connections, not just at work, but anywhere. And we're not able to do that. And so it's been a struggle, but I think it's a struggle for a lot of people right now. And I'm just trying to honestly learn a little bit more about myself and what it takes to balance myself out when that struggle happens. So that's kind of, things are okay, but getting there.
Yeah, I love the way you finished it off by saying, things are okay, but, and I think what I will tell you, that after 6 weeks of hosting these conversations on a daily basis, and we've just moved to twice a week this week, almost to a person, male, female, young, old, the response from everybody to that question has been, yeah, I have good days and I have bad days. And I spoke to somebody last week who said, I have good days and bad hours. Yep. And the reality is we are in uncharted waters, and therefore, and the fact that we don't know when the end is coming, I think that also is a challenge for all of us. But I couldn't agree with you more, Jesse. I think you and I are from the same cut of cloth, that when I can't spend time with people face to face, and digital technology is a great supplement, but it doesn't replace those human interactions that make you what you are, and make us all truly happy and healthier.
Yeah, I can only reflect the same, Pete, on, like, one, uncertainty I think is huge. And it's a question that's come up in the workplace of, like, how to try to battle uncertainty among employees and give them certainty when there isn't really things to be certain about. But also, in the same vein, everyone I have spoken to, when you're having an honest conversation, is struggling. And to be honest, and I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I think it's getting worse for people as this goes longer. I think they're really realizing what they're missing out on. So I think it's, finding new ways to connect. And luckily we've opened up a bit and the sun shines out. You can go for walks and, you can see people. You just got to be smart about it. I think that's I know it's been huge for me to even be able to get out on the balcony and take the dogs for a walk without having to wear a winter jacket.
Yeah. Maybe it's just the winter jacket. I don't know.
Exactly.
And I think there's two things. Number one, one of the pieces of feedback that we've had, from positive psychologists and workplace mental health, and psychologists we had on, was control what you can control. And I think there's, whether it's our mental or physical health, and taking steps, whether it's, for mental health, morning pages, gratitude, all those
Yep.
wonderful things, yoga, some mindfulness. Physical health, to your point, getting out, walking, exercising, nature, bicycle, because I see everybody on my street is biking and walking and getting out there, and to your point, appreciating the beauty. And there was one other point that it's amazing to me how so many people said this in the interviews we've done, which is just recognizing how fortunate you are if you have food, water, shelter, safety, security, those fundamental needs that Maslow told us back in 1943, I think it is. And the reality is those are the things that we really need in life, and everything else is an addition. So if you've got those, hey, there's a lot of people out there who don't have that right now.
Absolutely. absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, challenging time for everybody. Thank you for your perspective, and thank you for your honesty and your openness about the challenges that you're facing, because I think that also helps people, is recognizing that even Jesse, you know, a guy we look up to, a guy who's a senior leader in a mental health organization, even he's struggling. But I think that awareness and that ability to share like you have, it makes a huge difference for people.
Yeah, and I think it's so important we do it right now more than ever, with people. I think there's a lot of people struggling that have never struggled before, and there's people that do struggle regularly that are struggling more now. And for those that haven't struggled before and are really saying, you know, they're having a panic attack for the first time, they may have no clue what that is. Let's talk about it so that we can try to understand and know that like always, we're not the only one, and that there is ways to get help, and you may not know what that is if you've never experienced it before.
Well said, well said. So Jesse, let's talk about jack.org and the work you do there. Can you give us a little background, a little history on jack.org? I'm sure you've given it 100 times, but if you do us the favor and do it one more time, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I'll try to do it relatively quickly. But jack.org started in 2010. Eric Windler and Sandra Hannington, who are co-founders, lost their son Jack to suicide in his first year at Queen's University. And they basically right away went to Queen's University and started talking to friends, started talking to professors, and really looking into what happened, because they had no idea he was struggling. And what they learned was one of two things happened. Either people did recognize signs of struggle and knew that they were signs of struggle, but didn't know what to do about it, or they saw signs of struggle, but they didn't recognize that that's what they were. They just saw the behavior, and so they didn't do anything about it. Outcome is the same. So they started jack.org, which was then called the Jack Project, to try to make sure that all young people across Canada had the knowledge and skills they need to look out for themselves and check in on their own mental health and get help when they need it, and that they could look out for each other and know what signs and symptoms look like and know what to do if you see someone struggling. And basically right away, Eric became the ED of the Jack Project and went around and started talking to high schools and universities all across the country. And he pretty quickly realized that he wasn't the right guy for the job, for a couple of reasons. One, he's an older man, around 50 years old at the time, and he's talking to 15, 16, 18, 20-year-olds. You're not who they relate to. And two, he's one guy. And if that's the model and we do it off one guy's back, we're not going to make the revolutionary change that they were looking for. And so the entire model flipped. And as jack.org exists today, it's we don't go and do the work. We train and empower young leaders who then go do the education work on their own and advocacy work on their own. It means that we can have 3,000 people across Canada doing it instead of one. It also means that it's coming from a young person to a young person. So that's kind of our history. And where we are today, we run a bunch of programs, and they've changed remarkably because of COVID. But we have 3,000 young leaders across the country working every day to basically identify barriers to positive mental health, and then work year-round to break those barriers down. And that is who we are and what we do. What the barriers are is up to young people to tell us what they are in their communities.
That's incredible to have 3,000 people, and you and I in our past also saw the power of engaging people from all walks of life, from all parts of the country, and I think that's without question the most powerful thing. It also just validates that, you know, if people are actually interested in the movement or the work that you're doing and they see value, then people will come forward and actually offer their services. So I think that's kudos to Eric and Sandra, kudos to the work you're doing, and kudos to the entire organization in the approach that you've done, that you've taken. So tell me, the programs that you ran before COVID-19, because obviously we're living in a COVID-19 world, and you just touched on the fact that things have changed dramatically in a matter of 11 weeks, but leading into COVID-19 in the old world that probably isn't going to return the way it once was, what were the programs that you were really building your organization on?
Yeah, so I would say we have 5 core programs, and they will continue to be our 5 core programs moving forward. but they will change significantly in that we need to bring them online, and some of them were online, and that's where we were headed anyways. We had just finished, right before COVID began, we finished a 5-year strategy plan, and basically the direction we were headed was to do small tweaks to our in-person programming, but it was really about following the suit of our one program, Be There, and bringing everything online. And so the 3 programs, I'll just give you like the 3 core ones quickly. Chapters and summits have been core to jack.org forever, before my time. Talks it's basically a youth speaker bureau. They go through up to 50 hours of training on how to be a public speaker, how to share a mental health story safely, that sort of stuff. They then go there's 130 of them across Canada that this year we're on track to deliver 550 Jack Talks to about 100,000 people. Those are mostly in the school setting. So the Jack Talks start the conversation. And then we have chapters. Chapters where action kind of takes place and where real change actually happens. Chapters are there to identify barriers to positive mental health and break them down year round. That's different than the rest of our programs. And they're trained more on how to be a leader. So how do you identify problems in your community? Once you identify them, how do you build a plan? How do you keep things going? How do you check in to make sure you're actually getting the impact that you were looking for? So that's the chapter program. We have 230 chapters across the country, every province and territory. And then we have Jack Summits. It started with Jack Summit, which is a national summit in Toronto. We bring 250 young leaders from across Canada. And then actually this year we were going to, before having to cancel, bring 6 people globally. And they're there to collaborate with each other, learn from one another, learn from experts in the space, and really work together to try to solution problems that they identify in their communities, and come together to understand what change needs to happen locally and nationally. Those were our 3 core. And then I just want to take a second to talk about Be There. Be There was the kind of 4th big piece for us. It was through a realization that we're talking about mental health all the time. We're saying, reach out and ask for help. And it's a very positive message. But the truth is, in Canada and the US, you're not going to get the help you need unless you can afford to pay for it. In Canada, you're going to wait anywhere from 3 months to a year. And even then, that's to get your first appointment. It may or not be with someone that works for you. And in the meantime, your friends and your family don't necessarily know how to be there for you. That's why stigma exists, because we're not educated. And what we found was our young leaders came to us, asked us for a place where can they send people that actually want to learn how to help. And we looked and we did a global landscape scan, and there was nothing that was both comprehensive and engaging. There was comprehensive, but it was like hospital websites and really boring. And there was engaging, but engaging was very top line. So like start the conversation, but not actually understanding how to train you and teach you how to have a relationship that is supportive and safe. So we launched Be There last May, and that's really become a core program for us and leaks into everything. And it's been welcomed with open arms. Over 265, I think, thousand users already in about a year. And it's gone really, really well. So Be There was a marker for us of like, we can do digital and we can do it really well. So then that leads into COVID and all the change.
Awesome, and it sounds like a great array of programs, and similar to the message of the GenWell Project. You know, our belief is, hey, just getting people to talk and recognize the role each of us can play in supporting other people is such a simple message. But maybe we were living in a fast-paced, distracted, and pressure-filled world where we forgot about our, I'll say, we think of corporate social responsibility. Maybe it's just social responsibility, that we all have a responsibility to look out for each other. And, actually with only, I think it's 34% of Canadians actually have a relationship with their neighbor. Maybe the rest of us could actually build a relationship with our neighbor. And if only, 21% of people have seen their family in the last, family and friends, I think it is, in the last month, maybe this pandemic will wake us up to the importance of staying connected with one another and recognizing that just by having a conversation with somebody, we can actually help make somebody's day better or their life better, or, help them cope with any of the challenges that they might be facing. So, so now COVID-19 comes, and let me ask you first, what are you hearing back from young people about what the impact is of COVID-19? We talked about how you were feeling things that, we're all struggling right now. Is there anything unique to a young person at this time? Obviously, schools are going online. I just heard this morning that all CA I think that's what it is, CIAU sports have been canceled for the fall. So athletes won't get a chance to go out and play. What are you hearing, Jesse? What are students feeding back to you?
I mean, for starters, they're struggling, and I want to say like everyone else, but I don't think it is like everyone else.
Yeah.
In that, what's very different for young people is their struggle previous to this. So young people are struggling in ways we've never seen before. The rate of 20% of all young people are suicide, and it's actually more closer to 25, meaning almost a quarter of all deaths are suicide. Young people are struggling in a significant way that's not acceptable anyway. So you take people that already were struggling for whatever reason. We may not know exactly why. When we do our research, it really comes down to academic pressure and social media. Those are the two biggest things it comes down to, but we can't say exactly why. What happens now is we've taken a group that is and struggling, and we've taken away their friends, their social connections, their therapist. There are
Jesse, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, I don't want to lose this. Are you back? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Now he's going to come back in. You know what? That is incredible information that Jesse and the folks at Jack.org have collected, and the feedback that they're getting from young people. It isn't the same for young people as it is for the rest of us. And I don't want to lose what Jesse was saying there, because I think what he was saying was important for us all to hear and understand what young people are going through right now, so that we can all step up and be there for people by reaching out, having conversations, and supporting them. Jesse, can you hear me? All right, we're back. Hey, where we lost you, Jesse, was
good to go. Sorry.
You were talking about the challenges that they were facing, and now we've taken away all the social connections that young people have. So I don't know if you can pick up from that point and continue on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think young people are struggling generally prior to COVID. We've taken away now like a lot of social connections, their access to therapy. Some may be in home to be safe. So, the LGBTQ community going back home to a home that may not accept them. It's just different living under a roof. For most of us that aren't young, we don't have to go live with our parents now. So life is just not changing as much. And I think we just need to be worrying about them all the time, because when the rates are as high as they are in regards to suicide, any additional stressor, especially one that's something as the size of this that at least I have never experienced in my life, it's cause for concern, and your outside conditions affect your mental health. And we need to do everything that we can, and that's what Jack.org has tried to do, to understand what young people need right now and respond.
Yeah. And so in that vein, what have you guys done to try and respond to the COVID-19 challenges that young people are facing? Because I couldn't agree with you more. They are not the same. There's some the same, but there's a lot that's different. And to your point, I think, a lot of people only think about isolation as the challenge that people might be feeling, the disconnection from one another. But to your point, the fact that you might be feeling cabin fever, being in the same house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that can also create the stress and anxiety that you're touching on. So how have you guys been able
Absolutely.
to respond and it's obviously turning around very quickly?
Yeah, it's been quite a process, and I think we're lucky to have a team that is willing to lean in when they need to understand that our role is to be there for young people, and that comes first and foremost. And so we reacted before right away. And so basically we got together and said, what is the role of Jack.org in a situation like this? And we didn't think there were very many other organizations in the youth mental health space that would be able to react as quickly as we could to give people the knowledge and skills they need upstream to make sure they can take care of themselves and look out for one another. So we basically, we immediately put together resources that it's educational information on how to take care of yourself, how to deal with COVID, the stuff you saw coming out in the beginning. But we also partner with Kids Health Phone and School Mental Health Ontario to create Mental Health COVID Hub, which you can see at jack.org/COVID. And it basically, it's not everything you can find. It's the things that we think are really useful and our network has told us is really useful. But it's basically any young person that is struggling with their mental health or knows someone that is, they should be able to find the resources they're looking for there. So we launched that. It's been hugely successful. I think we've had over 55,000 visitors in the last bunch of weeks. So that was something we did right away. The next thing we did was we got our team together and we basically said, how could we segment the Canadian population into types of people right now and what their needs are? And we basically, I won't go through the whole thing, but things like some people need hope. How do we give those people hope? And that's really just a messaging thing. Some people need access to therapy. And that's not a Jack.org thing, but we can continue to advocate for it and advocate for people providing digital therapy as quickly as we can. Some people want to continue their advocacy. Some people need to understand how to look out for themselves. So what does mental health look like when you're positive and what doesn't it look like when you're struggling? So we basically divided into those 6 categories and created a 6-week or so communications plan, which was completely different from anything we had planned. And we also did a couple other things. We had one of our biggest programs is Jack Talks. So we launched right before the shutdown happened. We got 2 of our best speakers together and we recorded a virtual talk. And we shared that with teachers across the country and with a facilitation guide so that you could do it. You could have a Jack Talk, but you could host it via Zoom or whatever your digital classroom was. And we also released one for individuals. We've had over 500 individuals, and that was the last time I checked about a week and a half ago, go through the Jack Talk and go through the facilitation. So that's amazing. And the last thing I want to mention, there's much more, but Be There is the resource I mentioned. We had Born This Way Foundation, which is Lady Gaga's foundation in the US, reach out to us and basically say, listen, we used to do mental health first aid. We can't do that anymore because it's in person. And we love Be There. We want to bring it to the US. And so we partnered with them on a campaign called Be Kind, Be There, which is basically saying that one of the kindest things we think you can do right now is teach yourself how to be there for other people in your life. And you can do that in 5 minutes. You can also do it in 5 hours, but just 5 minutes will help. And so we're directing them to be there. And there's a timer there to encourage people to spend 5 minutes. But that's also been hugely successful and really cool to see the amount of traction in the US as well, because it's obviously a gap we're filling for them too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And obviously that Be There and the GenWell Project are very connected. You know, our message is
Absolutely.
We don't consider ourselves a mental health campaign. We want to be a proactive measure that everybody can use to stay happy and healthy and you know, support themselves and other people by recognizing the value of human connection. But certainly knowing how to be there for people is a critical messaging point for, you know, people when they are struggling. And as you say, right now, there's a lot of people there. So give us where's the best place for people to get all that information right now, Jesse?
They can just head over to jack.org if they're looking to get involved. If they're looking to access the resource, they can head to bethere.org. Either option works, and I'm always around so people can shoot me a message.
That's awesome. And so where do we go from here in regards to the jack.org as you go through the rest of COVID? Do you have big, exciting plans as you get to the other side of COVID and the new normal that may start soon or in a couple of months, who knows? But any plans in the pipeline?
Or not, yeah, we absolutely. We just finished our 5-year strategy right before, and really, while it's making us wildly busy right now, it's pushing us ahead quite a bit in regards to our digital progress. So there'll be a lot more to come for Jack.org. We have a lot of plans. Be There. There'll be a tool which will likely be some sort of incredibly engaging immersive certificate. So it's a more intense training program. But I mean, there's a million and one exciting things that Jack.org is working on. I think we cannot let COVID get in our back mirror, I guess, in that when it ends, there's going to be a struggle for people going back. And I think that Jack.org has another role in making sure they have the skills and expertise and ability, kindness for themselves and others to do that in a safe way, in a way that they feel supported. So lots to come. I mean, Jack.org, we view ourselves as wanting to lead the way for youth mental health globally, and be there for young people in Canada as best we can. And I think because of COVID, we're going to advance digitally, not just Jack.org, but the country and the world in a really remarkable way that hopefully will allow us to give young people the access that they deserve to the mental health treatment that they've been seeking. And I think that's a key piece, because as the mental health conversation has grown, the percentage of people that are reaching out and actually accessing help is going down, meaning the gap is widening. So we need to find ways that cost less money and are smarter and more efficient to give people the help that they deserve. And I'm hoping that is one really great thing that can come out of COVID.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We were talking to Susan Chamberlain from the George Hull Center a few weeks ago, and she talked about her entire program at George Hull was in person, and they would have never thought about the value of connecting with young people and their families digitally. And there will be, we'll go to the opposite end of the scale, and we'll probably come back a bit. But there will be people who will be able to be supported through technology, and that's an amazing thing. And even though human connection by research is better face-to-face in regards to the value to us in our health, our happiness, both mentally and physically as well, digital technology is a great way that we can all experience and get, the supplemental connection that we need right now until we can get back to connecting face to face. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think we've been given, I wrote an article on this just about being given permission. You and I would never have thought of having a virtual call with you until 11 weeks ago. And now we've all been approved. We've been given permission to call our closest friends and speak digitally. And we now have an excuse to reach out to people that we haven't seen in a long time as well, because, we have COVID-19, and what a great opportunity, since the world is going through it together, to reach out to somebody and check in on them and say how they're doing. So, and even to your bigger point is the purpose that we can all have when you recognize the impact that you can have just through a conversation with somebody. Well, if that's not a reason to pick up the phone or, dial a Zoom or a FaceTime or an Instagram, then I don't know what is.
Couldn't agree more.
So, Jesse, as we get to the end of our conversation today, I want to ask you one more big question. And that question is, when this is all over, when we've gotten young people to the other side of this, and by the way, I do agree with you,
Stay here.
Most of us have only thought about COVID in the context of the health implications that people are going to have. But to your point, I think we are looking at years, if not a decade or so, of the repercussions of, financial employment, future work for young people. It's all going to be impacted because of what we're going through here. But let's also highlight the silver linings that come with all of this, which is maybe on the other side of this, we create a more compassionate, more empathetic, more caring society who thinks about our young people. And because we recognize the value of reaching out to one another, that we actually, think a little harder of how we can mentor a young person, how we can stay connected to a young person, how we could get kids on our block to get outside and play in the street or play in the park or shoot hoops or whatever the thing is, because I think a lot of that had been lost over the last decade or two. And maybe there is a silver lining here. What do you think, Jess?
Well, two things. As you know, habits only take about 30 days to form, longer to break. But hopefully, I think for me specifically, like get out and that sort of thing has been really helpful for me and has got me to start doing it again. And so hopefully for a lot of people, you're starting to do things like getting out in the street because you have no other choice, that you kind of rekindle your love with having fun and being a child. Not just us, but actual children as well, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to when things open back up. For me, Not to finish on a I guess sad note. I think you know this, that my cousin passed away during COVID unexpectedly. And I think one of the things we realize is just how important social connection is for people grieving. I know I have noticed that in a big way. I'm like finding my confident voice here, but it's not easy. And it's even more reason why the telephone and picking up the phone matters when you can't grieve together. It just makes me value, one, family, and two, connecting with people and the importance of just sitting in a room with someone, especially during hard times. So I'm looking forward, when this is all done, to celebrating the life of my cousin David, but with people that love him and that I love. I think it's a really tough conversation that I haven't heard too much of, like, what about people grieving right now and how hard is it? And so I'm really looking forward to be able to connect with people and actually have a shoulder to physically lean on during tough times.
Yeah, I think in all the interviews that I've done, the conversations that we've had, the number one response has been, hey, you know what I want to do is I want to go and get connected, whether it's with my good friends. I played hockey 3 times a week, getting out for a skate and having the banter before and after the game, getting out and, we're doing some physical distancing with friends, but I think the response is pretty much across the board. The thing that people are missing right now more than anything is the opportunity to connect face to face with the people that they care about most. And isn't it amazing that the research clearly shows us that that's probably one of the greatest things that we can do for our happiness and our health, both mentally and physically. And that's what you're focused on with young people. And we're focused on it from a GenWell perspective and getting everybody to understand that message so that they can actually support young people. We can all support each other because it is a multi-generational solution. We've got seniors that are in homes that don't have people to talk to, and young people who could probably benefit from the wisdom of those people. So wouldn't it be amazing if we could build those connections and build those bridges that kept us all happier and healthier?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I appreciate you having this conversation and bringing people together. And I'm excited for when things do go back to normal. And in the meantime, I'm just going to keep connecting with people as much as I can, especially family.
Great job, my friend. Thank you for making the time today. Thank you for sharing in the conversation. I know we both believe in the importance of human connection, and hopefully we'll be able to build some bridges and bonds, and not only through COVID-19, but on the other side of this, and help make the world a happier and healthier place, one face-to-face conversation at a time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete.
See you, buddy. Take care of yourself. Ciao for now.